Hey there, Diane Conklin with Complete Marketing Systems and Diane'sFarmDozen.com. Welcome back. We are on episode 6, halfway through our dozen. Episode 6, be prepared. Be prepared. Have a backup plan. Now, I'm going to tell you that this was a lesson I learned from growing up on a farm, but it's also a lesson I learned in Girl Scouts. Just me being honest, right? That was one of the things. Be prepared. That was one of the, I don't know what they called it in Girl Scouts, but that's where part of where I got that. But it's applicable on the farm as well as in your business. Being prepared has a lot to do with expecting the unexpected, right? What are the things that might happen that I need to prepare for just in case? So, here's a silly example, but having extra gas in the field in case maybe the gauge is wrong, maybe the gas gauge breaks and you don't know it, and the worst, not the worst thing, but it's never good to run out of gas in the middle of a field somewhere. Now, again, this was before when I grew up on the farm in the 70s and the early 80s. We didn't have cell phones, right? So we did have CB radios in some of the bigger tractors and certainly in the truck, um, that was usually, but not always, at the place. And so there was some ability to communicate. But imagine if that had been on one of the smaller tractors that didn't have a cab in it where there wasn't a CB radio and something had happened. It's a long walk sometimes, right? Across 40 acres or 70 acres or 100 acres, to get to help and assistance. And look, sometimes things happen and you can be prepared all you want and have backup plans, and things are still going to happen. But if you think about, like, this is not the Yellowstone kind of thing. One, it's not the Yellowstone in size, but it's also not the Yellowstone from the perspective of cell phones and helicopters kind of deal. Again, it was a small family owned farm is what we're talking about here. But being prepared in your business, um, is really about, sort of similar to the previous episode, right? Which was, have a plan and be flexible. Being prepared is thinking ahead. It's twofold, right? So it's thinking ahead and thinking about what are the things that I can prepare for ahead of time that might happen, that I can avoid turning into a big event or a tragedy or a whatever, right? An issue, a challenge, a problem. One of the biggest examples of this I can give you is, uh, you may or may not know, I do, have done in my career a lot of event planning, a lot of event marketing, and a lot of event planning where I am running events for the event promoter and coordinating with speakers and hotels and, um, all of those things, right? And so being prepared, there's so many moving parts at a live event, right? Gotta be, what if a speaker doesn't show up? Somebody better have prepared some extra presentations. I do this at my own events. What if I misjudge the time and I need more content? Now I can pretty much ad lib and add content and do Q&A, and there's lots of, but I have to be prepared and ready, right? And so I inevitably have usually 3 to 4, depending on whether it's a 2-day event, or a 3-day event, extra presentations ready and available. Now I get by with this partly because I don't give people an agenda other than basic time frames. There'll be a session here and a break here and a session here. Um, but so many moving parts. What if a speaker doesn't show up? What if there's an act of God? What if there's an issue, weather-wise? I was working with and for a major event promoter when 9/11 hit. And 28 days after 9/11, we hosted an event in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The event promoter was in Florida. Um, and we had 250 people who had paid and were scheduled to be there. And, um, look, you can be prepared all you want. Nobody anticipated 9/11. Um, But we sat down after it happened and said, okay, what's our plan? We don't want to have to give 250 people their money back. And we don't want to, the hotel, we had all the speakers, all of these things. How do we put people's mind at ease about traveling? And we didn't know, obviously, until travel opened up, however many days later, what was going to happen. But we sat down and made a plan, and we literally called and reached out to every single person who was registered. And I may get this number wrong a little bit, but I think there were 20 people that canceled or didn't come out of the 250. Why? Because we took something that we weren't prepared for and got prepared for it after the fact. Now, it's better ahead of time, but that again is something that you really couldn't have prepared for. Um, but so let me give you a different example from the events, right? So I had the wife of an event promoter that I did a lot of work with. Her philosophy was, like something's gonna happen. I mean, she was always nervous. She was always um, just upset and nervous and stuff at an event. And I asked her one day, I said, why do you get all worked up? She said, well, something's going to happen. Somebody's going to be unhappy. Somebody's going to create there's going to be an issue, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, but we're prepared. We've done everything we can to be ready for this event. The room is set up, reconfirm with speakers. There's a whole list of things that we did and went through. That we had staff there. We would go early and get bottled water and snacks and have things ready. If the speaker needed water, we had it. If somebody in the room had an episode and needed food, there were snacks. We shipped, and I do this now. I've got a whole room, a small room in my garage with all my event stuff in it, right? There's a whole um, big plastic tub that's full of pencils and pens and staplers and extra staples and paper clips and uh, erasers and post-it notes and a hammer. Why? Because I want to be prepared in case I need something. Now, if we're doing this at a hotel, yeah, you might be able to get some of these things, or yeah, you're not out in the boonies, you could take an Uber or a cab or something to a local. But having it there gives me peace of mind to know that there's almost nothing that's going to happen in that room that I haven't prepared for. And again, stuff happens. You have a medical event or whatever, but you talk about those things ahead of time so you're prepared and it doesn't take you off your game, right? And then there's crazy things that are going to happen at a hotel. Um, I was working at an event in Jacksonville once for a gentleman, and I knew there was something in the room beside us because I always ask that question when I do event negotiations with the hotel. But they always have rules about noise and that kind of thing. Well, turns out this was a Ramadan celebration, and there was loud music and people in the foyer, and it was crazy. And so as it ended up, and I had done everything I could do to prepare for this, and the hotel just wasn't honest about what the event was. And so they ended up paying us essentially $5,000 to finish hosting the event there because we had grounds for canceling kind of thing. But again, there's going to be things that you think you've taken care of that end up biting you, and those are just a couple of examples. But being prepared allows you to be more relaxed, to be more flexible, to enjoy where you are and what you're doing even more than you would if you weren't prepared. Because now you don't have to worry, right? Yeah, something's going to happen. We'll take care of it when it comes up because we probably have something somewhere to help handle the situation. Here's the thing that I know inevitably, and I don't know why I'm using event examples, but inevitably somebody's going to show up at a live event without a pad of paper and a pencil. Now, today, a lot of times people use computers, but that is a whole nother issue that you have to prepare for because who wants to hear this, right, beside them while they're trying to concentrate? But how do you go to a live event and not have a way to take notes? I've never understood it. I'll never understand it. But no big deal. Here's a pad of paper. Here's a pen, right? Kind of thing. Just be prepared. And then you don't have to get stressed out about it. Oh my gosh, somebody has to go to the store and get paper. No, it's in the supplies that we brought with us, kind of thing. So again, always having a backup plan, a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, a plan D if you need to. Be prepared. Always be prepared. Whether you're a Girl Scout, a business owner, an event promoter, whatever it is that you're doing, always be prepared for the unexpected. What happens if you're in the middle of a Zoom meeting or a webinar, a Zoominar, and your internet goes out? How do you communicate with your people? Have you thought about that? All kinds of things that you can prepare for and have backup plans for that maybe you hadn't thought of. And some help with some of those things, reach out, let me know. Send an email to info@completemarketingsystems.com and let's schedule a time to have a discussion. Let me know what you think about be prepared and what the things are that you do to be prepared. Check it out. If you want the rest of this, or you want these, just go to dianesfarmdozen.com. It's there for you. Until next time, make it a great day.